Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and open up the playbook that really shapes how we all see our leaders and maybe even how we end up voting. We're going to break down the strategies that are powering pretty much every digital political campaign you see today.
So, let's just start with a big question to get us thinking. When you cast your vote, are you really choosing a person? Or are you buying into a carefully, meticulously crafted product? Now, I know it's a provocative thought, but it's right at the heart of how modern political strategy works.
Okay, so let's dive into that. To really understand this playbook, we first have to get our heads around the core principle that the whole thing is built on. This idea of politics as a product.
And it has a name, of course. It's called political marketing. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You take the principles of commercial marketing and just apply them straight to the world of politics. The candidate, their party, their big ideas, all of them are seen as products. The only difference? Well, the transaction isn't about money. It's about something way more personal. Your vote.
Think about it this way. To sell a smartphone, a company needs branding, they need a target audience, and the goal is to get your money. Well, a political candidate needs branding, and they need a target audience. But the transaction is your vote. When you look at it like that, the underlying logic is pretty much identical.
So, if a candidate is a product, then how do you actually build one that people are going to want to vote for? Well, that brings us right to the first step in the playbook, crafting the candidate.
You can think of these as the raw materials for the candidate product. Campaigns strategically pick out the traits that they know voters find desirable. So, for instance, to showcase problem-solving ability, a campaign might just flood your social media feed with short clips of the candidate visiting a struggling local business and laying out their solutions. These qualities get highlighted again and again and again to build up that ideal profile.
And of course, in politics, what a candidate says matters. Their words are important.
But in this super fast-scrolling digital world we live in, their image is instantaneous. We process a visual so much faster than we process words. And you better believe campaigns know this.
So, building that image is absolutely critical. It isn't just about their stance on policy, it's about how a candidate rolls up their sleeves at a town hall. It's that determined tone of voice they use in a campaign video, or their confident body language during a televised debate. Every single one of these nonverbal cues is a carefully managed piece of their personal brand.
And this really points to a sort of a one-two punch strategy. Campaigns are constantly working to connect with us on both an emotional level and a rational one. Like the quote says, a picture of a candidate smiling or interacting with kids builds sympathy. That's an appeal to the heart. A detailed plan for the economy? That appeals to logic, to the head. A successful campaign has to do both.
All right, so once the product is designed, you've got to know who you're selling it to. And that brings us to the market research phase of the playbook. Step 2, understanding your voters.
Let me tell you, modern campaigns are data machines. They use digital tools to analyze just about everything about the electorate. Demographics like your age and income, sure, but also sociocultural factors like family, religion, or the region you live in. They even look at your lifestyle and interests. All of this data helps them chop up the market into different segments.
And that data is then used to craft very specific messages for different types of voters. For the so-called rational voter, campaigns will push ads about policies and solutions. For the emotional voter, the focus is all on the candidate's character and their personal story. And for the social voter, the goal is to create buzz and momentum within their social circles. A really smart digital campaign speaks to all three, just in very different ways.
Okay, so the product is crafted, the market is analyzed. Now it's time for the big push, the promotion. So let's move on to step 3, spreading the message.
A modern political campaign has a massive digital megaphone at its disposal. This includes the obvious stuff, right, like social media platforms, but it also includes newer tools like digital influencers or e-influencers, who are basically popular online personalities paid to spread the message. And it all relies on two incredibly powerful techniques: digital word of mouth and simple, classic repetition.
Let's just focus on that word-of-mouth idea for a second. In the digital world, it's all about leveraging what look like real organic comments and shares from other users to build momentum. And it's so powerful because it doesn't feel like a slick campaign ad. It feels like an authentic opinion from somebody you know, a peer, and that can directly shape how people see things.
So this all builds up to the final and most critical part of the playbook. See, it's not just about being present online. It's about being strategic. It's about Step 4, winning the digital game. In politics, just like any other market,
you have competitors. And in a really crowded field, the winner is very often the one who just manages to stand out from the pack. Being good isn't always enough. You have to be different.
So how do they actually do this? Well, they might create a totally unique brand for their candidate, say as the outsider. Then they might target a niche group of voters that other campaigns are ignoring, maybe young entrepreneurs. By zeroing in on a current event that really affects that group, like new tech regulations, they can present themselves as the only candidate who has a clear solution for them.
But, all this branding and all this strategy can just completely fall apart if voters don't trust you. In this digital age, with so much information and misinformation flying around, building and keeping trust is absolutely everything. And it really boils down to one single core principle. And that principle is transparency. The smartest campaigns today use their digital platforms not just to shout out promises, but to actually report on their progress. They create a feedback loop with voters, showing them what's being done. It's about using technology to be accountable, which, in turn, is what builds that crucial bond of trust.
So, we've walked through the whole playbook, treating politics as a product, crafting the candidate, analyzing the voter, and spreading the message. Which kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. Does this playbook ultimately create better, more responsive leaders? Or does it just create better, more marketable brands? Well, that's something to chew on.